All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Intelligent Retail webinar. We are so excited to have you today. If you are new to using a Teams-enabled webinar platform, please note on the side there is a live Q&A for you to ask any questions throughout this webinar, and there's a handful of us all available to answer questions. We've got an excellent lineup of speakers today. My name is Rachel Frick. I'm with Intel, and I'm joined today by Diane Lamandola from Intel. She's one of our global partner executives, and Ricardo Mendez, who's one of our principal program managers from Microsoft, responsible for the Azure Stack family portfolio, and George Moore, also with Microsoft, one of the CTOs of Azure Global Engineering. So you'll be hearing, I think, a lot from some of these speakers today, including some awesome demos of some of the latest technologies. All right, so for agenda this morning, I'll help walk through kind of some introductions, and then we're going to go through a little bit of a retail overview and kind of what our vision is for intelligent retail. And we'll also talk a little bit about kind of what the COVID-19 landscape has brought for the retail environment and kind of some ways that we're seeing some retailers respond. From there, we'll go through a deep dive into Azure Synapse and demonstrate how that is accelerating retail insights. And then we'll do a deep dive on Azure Stack Edge and Azure Stack Hub, and then we'll end the presentation today with an actual intelligent retail blueprint overview and some live demonstrations of the technologies that we built together. Awesome. So Intel and Microsoft started on this journey several months ago, trying to build a new platform for how we can really evolve the retail landscape. And part of the goal was to really demonstrate technologies that were available today. So this isn't the future of retail, but some really easy and seamless technologies that we could enable our retail partners to activate today and really create a much more connected and intelligent retail experience. Part of the goals here were to help retailers actually be able to predict what their customers would want to purchase, and see exactly what kind of engagement they're seeing on a retail floor, and be able to respond real time on the back end to how many customers might be in one part of the store versus another, be able to meet the customer where they're at and create a much more kind of integrated experience, but really drive more business value and business impact to the retailer owners. So with that, why don't we go to switch over to Ricardo, and he's going to kick off with a little bit more information on kind of where Microsoft sees retail today. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So a couple of things to consider when we are creating solutions for retail, and I'd like to walk you through those. So first and foremost, it is crucial that we understand who our customers are and understand what are their preferences and their shopping habits. So it is crucial that with knowing our customers, we can better serve them either online or in physical locations. Not only that, our customers are only part of any retail solution. It's all about the retail staff as well. So empowering the employees is critical. You know, making sure that staff is knowledgeable about products being sold, making sure that staff is aware is aware of the customer's preferences, and also staff have the answers to customers' questions and can address problems and questions quickly. Now, besides knowing your customer and empowerment of staff, no matter if the staff is in the front or the back of the house, it is also important to making sure that a supply chain exists and is effective, and with that we can optimize not only for the physical stores but also for online. And with all of that, when we do this, what really means is it's basically re-imaging retail and bringing superpowers to retail. Now, this also requires you to be prepared to develop those solutions, to support those solutions. And over the course of today, of this session, we are going to cover, how you create those solutions that know all the customers, that empower your employees, but also how we were prepared to develop, deploy, and maintain those solutions. And in terms of superpowers, when I look at retail today, and also the technology that we'll be showcasing, it is really about providing capability to scale and be flexible, meaning that you develop your solutions and you are able to deploy those solutions everywhere from a small convenience store all the way to a large grocery or apparel location, and having a way to scale your system and solution as you need. It also means being able to do that across physical and the online, offering pretty much a singular presence, no matter what the mean is. And also, it's about providing capability at the edge for processing of both compute needs, but also artificial intelligence. It's really bringing processing everything everywhere where you actually need it, all the way to the field, all the way to the edge, and making sure that you are able to run your apps in a way that you can leverage things like AI models that detect how people are interacting with your store, how things like stock management, etc., can be optimized, and this can all be pushed to the edge as you need. Now, we know that for a complete retail experience, it's all about to go from the edge and to the cloud. So meaning that over the course of this session, we're going to give you some ideas and examples how these solutions can be built in a way that at a store level, you can perform compute and inferencing to take care of the needs of both the front of the store as well as the back of the store. But then you can also use the cloud, and the cloud being the public cloud, or Azure Stack Hub, the cloud on your data center for a regional view of your different retail solutions. So think on this model where you do inferencing at the edge in a specific location, then you aggregate those insights at a regional level with something like Azure Stack, and then you leverage the public cloud for a global view. And with that model, what it means is you can use the Azure powers where it makes sense at the scale that it makes sense. So we'll be covering how you do that over the course of the day. And before that, I like to have Diane here, and she's going to walk us through some of the current changes in retail that we are seeing. So Diane.
Thanks, Ricardo. So let's take a look at the current environment where it's more critical than ever to understand your customers, employees, and suppliers. So this once-in-a-lifetime event is moving at such an incredible speed and driving change that no one ever could have predicted. So are we experiencing a moment in time, or is this actually a new normal? So if we think about it from the consumer perspective, and we've really been looking at retailers through the lens of essentials versus the non-essentials. And the essentials include grocery, and any stores that sell food, pharmacies, medical supplies, gas stations, convenience stores, etc. Those are the ones that are currently open. And according to Visual Capitalist, when comparing March 2020 to March 2019, there's been a triple-digit increase in food and essentials. So we've seen a 397% increase in soup, 377% in packaged foods, and 190% on toilet paper sales. So we know consumers are stocking up on these essentials. And then when we think about non-essentials, which include department stores, specialty soft goods, apparel, sporting goods, and many others, unfortunately, they're seeing double-digit declines ranging anywhere from 30% to 70% plus. And according to CoreSite research, over 630,000 retail doors are currently shuttered due to the coronavirus. So even if we think about shopping for these essentials, there's still a challenge for customers, whether it's in-store or online. In-store, the average consumer is having to shop 46% more stores than they normally would just to stock up on those items that they need that would be considered essential. And when we look at grocery specifically, so the internet's transformed how people shop for so many products, but grocery's not been one of them. Last year, there was a poll by Gallup that suggested that 81% of shoppers have reported that they've never ordered groceries online. Well, that's all dramatically changed, in the past couple of months. And a recent survey by RBC Capital Markets showed that 42% of participants have purchased online groceries at least once a week since this pandemic started. So these new habits are forming, and all of the old perceived barriers for grocery shopping online seem to be going by the wayside. And customers are realizing that food and other essentials may not require a trip to the store. So what does the shopping experience look like right now? Well, the pre-COVID delivery windows were looking like 2 hours, and in some cases even pushing 1 hour delivery. So think same day ordering, delivery within 1 to 2 hours. Well, things have changed. So during the first couple of weeks of shelter in place, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, where we're part of the first 6 counties in the nation that were required to shelter in place starting on March 17th. And we all dutifully accepted and decided to stay home. We even decided to try to stay out of the stores until we started to try to buy perishable and grocery items online. And it was almost impossible to find a delivery window. Even as of this morning, there's still a 4-day delivery window from my local Safeway. Now remember, previous, we could probably get within at least a day, if not, within a couple of hours. So fortunately, that situation has changed, and retailers have made significant adjustments to both their staff as well as the systems to accommodate this increase in demand for these services. And we're starting to see kind of a return to a normal scenario with resumed services through Instacart, Shipt, and others. However, in a 1-month period, February through March, consumers have downloaded delivery apps in an unprecedented fashion, seeing volumes of over 125% to over 200% in downloading apps such as Instacart, Walmart Grocery, and Shipt. And even as we think about the non-essentials, that retail market is changing as well. In an article even as of yesterday, BounceX, which is a marketing technology company that tracks thousands of fashion, beauty, and luxury websites, found that sales of intimate apparel, home goods, and fashion were among the items that were most in demand on online sales since mid-April. So if we think about it, groceries, essential items, everybody was trying to find all of those items very early in the beginning of the shelter in place, and now that's shifting. So this market is changing so very, very quickly. And if we think about the items that I just mentioned, it's really a byproduct of people being at home, wanting to be comfortable, and also working on a variety of home projects. So even for these non-essential retailers, the customer interactions and buying patterns are just evolving in such a rapidly changing market. And for many, this behavior is going to become a new normal. So let's move on to the next slide and take a look at what does this look like from a retailer's perspective. So if you're an essential or a non-essential retailer, you're realizing a very different set of challenges. Essential retailers, once past this current rush, and it's stabilizing, but there's going to be a real opportunity to look at how do you optimize systems and data to be able to support not only the surge, but what takes place next. And we're already seeing a pivot of operations from throughput and efficiency to market response through operations. The high demand has really reviewed flaws in operational processes, forcing retailers to rethink their approach, as well as the supporting technologies, or using low-tech solutions such as people counting in many stores where there's now an individual sitting outside of the storefront with a clicker, identifying and determining how many people are coming in the store. That's actually creating long lines. However, it's also imperative that they keep the shoppers safe. And we saw that personally over shopping trips past a Walmart as well as an Ace Hardware store over this weekend. Retailers that have an intelligent retail environment and digital strategy have really fared better than those without, having the ability to react to these changing conditions very quickly. And with safety becoming such an important factor, increased sanitization of the stores is absolutely mandatory. So there's a lot of low-tech solutions that are being deployed right now, even with shopping bags or plastic being put over the pin pads, with store workers going in and sanitizing these devices for self-checkout. So a lot of changes. And for the non-essential retailers that have been required to close their doors and move to online sales, they've had to deal with some very different scenarios. So due to the uncertainty of the virus and certainly with unemployment and significant job losses, many consumers have really been tightening their budget. However, retailers are still trying to recapture those sales through heavily discounted promotions. And especially retailers that would not even participate in this practice. We're seeing companies like Neiman Marcus that have offered 25% off of everything in the store. Now, granted, they've got some other challenges that are emerging, but that's unprecedented. Or other specialty retailers that are offering discounts of 40, 50, or even 60% off of everything on their site. With brands such as Toby, Loft, and Lucky Brand, all apparel retailers. And again, even these non-essential retailers who have an intelligent retail environment, able to leverage the data and information that they have on their customers, partners, and suppliers, have been able to react and move much, much more quickly than those that do not. So what are some of the trends that are emerging out of this current environment? Let's go to the next slide, please. So we're seeing a number of trends that have come out of what I've already shared so far that are making a big impact. And we know that from what we've seen happening in Asia, that this lockdown we're going to come out of that lockdown probably in stages. And that's already being identified as we're all hearing through the news of the various ways of what needs to be put in place and multiple phases. NRF, the National Retail Federation, just announced yesterday their 3-stage recommendation, and you can find that out on the internet what the details look like. But these stages are going to require a number of different responses by by retailers to ensure that we come out and really ensure safety for not only the consumers but also the employees. So contactless solutions. I just saw a news headline this morning from IHL that we're going to be in a unprecedented new horizon of just an onslaught of solutions that you don't have to touch or interact. So adoption of cashless or cardless payments are going to be mandatory to minimize contact, and then reassure consumers that retailers are taking those proactive measures to ensure both a safe and a sanitized environment. We know in April, Publix, the grocery retailer, deployed tap-to-pay systems in all 1,200 plus stores, really helping to expedite that checkout process to ensure that the shoppers don't have to interact or touch any of the surfaces. And we also know that Walmart has made improvements to go completely contactless at self-checkout registers, again, to ensure the health of their consumers. So when we combine the technology with not only contactless, but also computer vision, we have an opportunity to also gauge and monitor, are people wearing the masks, the mandatory masks that are being required in many counties. I know I live in one of those counties where we have, we're required to wear a mask going into any store. And how does that get monitored? Right now, it's being monitored via an individual or by labor, but many of the solutions that we're going to see are going to start looking in and really determining that. Then we look at stores that have really become fulfillment hubs. And while this has happened to a certain degree prior to this situation, this is really increasing to support a whole new set of delivery services, including curbside, that includes both drive up and order pickup for both essential and non-essential retailers. So the number of orders that have been placed online and picked up at stores by customers has surged by about 208% between April 1st and April 20th compared to a year ago. And even retailers whose doors are closed, such as Kohl's, Bed Bath & Beyond, and Dick's Sporting Goods, are offering pickup services even with the doors being shut. And in Texas, where non-essential retail stores started to open up last Friday, they're offering curbside pickup again and starting to call this model retail to go. And then we see complete new models like Target that has just offered the drive up and order pickup service. And there are reports that are suggesting that when people use those services, they're seeing a 25% increase in the actual order basket. And I tried testing that out, but it's not working for perishable items. So I'm very interested to see, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about that. And we really think that curbside pickup looks like that's a trend. It's here to stay. If you can have convenience, minimize your time and effort, and yet still get what you need very quickly, I think that's a trend that is here to stay. Remote capabilities, making sure that employees do not have to go into environments or as infrequently as possible. And of course, work from home technologies are available for collaboration and easy manageability, but there's still a lot of questions that need to be considered about what services to provide for the employees. Is that working environment, is it a fixed, a mobile environment, or is it both? And then what kind of service levels do you want to provide to your employees? So we see significant opportunities emerging for remote manageability that really ensures that reliable, stable operational environment, but without the requirement of a person being there. And then optimized IT. So the systems, particularly for the essential retailers, have been taxed without a doubt, and many will need to be right-sized because there's been some very quick band-aids that have put in place, but there's really going to be a need to figure out how do they become more optimized as we look at kind of getting back to a more normal, even if that's a new normal state. And then as we think about health monitoring, which is going to be critical in order to alleviate the fears of consumers, it's going to require a number of new techniques. whether that's wearing masks or doing temperature monitoring, we're seeing very increased interest in thermal imaging that detects both consumer as well as employee temperatures. And then when you integrate that with computer vision, these solutions can actually determine if people are really complying to the requirement to wear masks, and making sure that safety is really of utmost concern, and also being ensured that the compliance, all the compliance is being met. And then finally, supply chain automation and agility. So we know we saw hoarding of cleaners, sanitizers, and paper goods, which is starting to stabilize. And now that's moving to food items in a variety of categories that include produce, soup, lettuce, and now we're looking at possible meat and poultry shortages. So start thinking about, well, how does that data and information get shared that ideally would get in front of some of the demand signals that could help and address and think through how do we challenge and how do we look at figuring out these problems in a new and different way. We're also starting to see both autonomous and robotic technologies that are being explored to meet many of these demands, and even robots that are being considered for actual home delivery for that last mile, maybe not even last mile, the last couple hundred feet. And then forecasting tools that are going to help adapt to these demand signals, agile distribution capacity, and really ensuring a reliable transportation infrastructure are going to be critical. And we're starting to see, so warehouse automation, there's been limited implementations. And so much of what happens in a warehouse today, like if you think about cross-docking, it's predominantly manual and requiring manual labor. But these are we're starting to see a lot more questions about potential automation that could occur. So COVID-19 may be providing a tipping point for warehouse automation for a number of different processes that occur in a warehouse. So data sharing among the retailers and suppliers throughout the supply chain is going to be critical as these consumer demand changes. And we know that retailers that have had a really solid digital strategy to know their customers, their employees, and their suppliers are faring much better than those that don't have one in place. An acceleration of digitization means a lot more data that will help to enrich all of the applications within the purchase, order fulfillment, pick and pack, and last mile. And now I'm going to turn it back to George on how do we translate these trends from the current environment into meaningful intelligence that will help support our customers, employees, and the supply chains, and really enable an intelligent retail environment.
Thanks, Diane. So I want to talk a lot about accelerating retail insights, and specifically big data in the context of retail and automation and artificial intelligence. So Microsoft's been working on retail for many, many years. We've been at NRF for better part of more than a decade. And so we listen to retailers all over the world. We have developed a great deal of insights as to what the needs of the retailers are. And we've developed these 4 pillars, primarily shown on the left-hand side here: the know your customers, empower your employees, deliver intelligent supply chain, and reimagine retail. And Ricardo later will be diving into specifically aspects of the reimagine retail piece, more specifically around edge-based processing, edge-based AI. I wanted to focus upon the blue bar there at the top where it says Azure Synapse connecting data and AI. We firmly believe that being able to drive a data gravity, a co-location of the physical location of the data plus the logical location of the data in one place is necessary to really enable these cross pillar scenarios, that the customer who's shopping is directly impacted by what's in the supply chain, which is also impacted by what's in the actual physical stores. And so I want to dive in this session specifically talking about Azure Synapse. And so traditionally, historically, there have been always sort of this separation between big data and relational data. Big data generally would reside within a data lake, and data warehousing was mainly used for relational data. They all had their strengths and weaknesses, and they were all they existed in different points in time in the marketplace, but they really it was hard for people to be able to bridge between big data and relational data. And so what we've done in Azure Synapse is actually bridge these two pieces together. So we actually have an integrated managed service, a SaaS service called Azure Synapse Analytics that integrates all the great things around big data, as well as all the great things around analytics and data warehousing. And more specifically, if you look at the division between traditional BI reporting, as shown on the left-hand side of this chart, and analytics, which is forecasting, which is shown on the right-hand side, there's always been this dichotomy between the reports and the data and the results you generate from a BI system versus the having to run separate systems for analytics. And so what we're doing here in Azure Synapse is being able to bridge these two left and right hand sides of this chart together, so you can easily scale the data that you have from being able to bring the data together and initially be able to produce some relatively simple BI reports, all the way up to, if you so choose, to prescriptive analytics, being able to do predictions as to what may be happening from a customer, from a supply chain, from a fulfillment, inventory, whatever the case may be, and do so in a very scalable way. And so also historically, when you start talking about these systems, big data and such have had these sort of pipelines where you ingest data on the left-hand side and data moves along this pipeline to the right-hand side to eventually doing reporting. And these have historically existed as separate systems: Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, SQL DW, etc. And so what we're doing in Synapse is actually bringing all these together, as I mentioned, as a single unified SaaS application that's specifically designed for both big data and analytics. So you can ingest data just like before from a variety of data sources, either on-premise or from cloud or devices, IoT data, whatever the case may be. Bring this into a single unified store and be able to then process the data and produce not just reporting, but also drive business automation from this data. And so I want to do a little demo here of this, an end-to-end demo. And the demo I'm going to show is the data aspects around some of the things that Diane mentioned around buy online and pickup, or contactless curbside pickup. So it starts with a customer going to an e-commerce website, being able to, as a retailer, understand e-commerce analytics of what those shoppers are doing online, how they're traversing my online presence, being able to enrich that data with real-world conditions such as Twitter data, and then translate that into the resulting orders, which are then fulfilled, as mentioned before, with the stores being used as the fulfillment centers, which means that things like real-time shelf inventory availability, having AI running in the stores to know what's actually physically on the store shelves, is a key part of this store execution piece. And finally, curbside pickup, being able to drive up to the store using things like license plate recognition, if the shopper chooses to opt in, can enable a much smoother, cleaner, easier pickup process without all the complexities of having to phone a number and recite then a order number and tell them you're in slot 3. You just simply pull up and the store knows you're there and is able to then come out and pick up the, you're able to pick up the products. So let's jump into the demo. So I wanted to start first with, actually, let me start first with the Power BI charts. So this is, I'll show you this Power BI chart, and then I'm going to show you actually how I created this chart behind the scenes, how the data is actually being fed and generated and marshaled to produce this, this real-time Power BI chart. And so this chart is divided into several different main areas. There's campaign and social analytics. So this is being able to understand what shoppers may be looking to buy, how they're thinking about products, how they're researching categories and such, as well as my marketing campaigns in order to drive them into the stores. I am enriching the data with real-time Twitter analytics. So what are the trending styles, trending hashtags on Twitter? Where are those events occurring by geography? as well as a sentiment score. And then over here on the right-hand side, real-time location analytics, meaning which shoppers are actually in my stores or near my stores at this very moment. And then being able also to provide product recommendation analytics. So let's jump into the how I built this behind the scenes from a data perspective. So this is Azure Synapse. This is the my workspace. And the first thing, of course, I want to do is bring in data that may exist elsewhere within my organization. Most companies have multiple different data silos that exist across different parts of their business. And so being able to bring this data all together in one Azure data lake is a key part. So first I'm going to click on the ingest button, and I'm going to create a copy pipeline to actually ingest data. So if I click on next and then create new connection, you see here we actually have over 90 different connectors for all manner of different on-prem, legacy, cloud, whatever mechanism you may want to ingest data. In this case, even Microsoft Access from the 1990s. And being able to bring data in, say, from Oracle or whatever, we have these pre-made connectors. And so I'll show you here an example of one that I've already built. So if I go into here and orchestrate, and in this case, I'm going to bring in data from my SAP cube and bring specific parts of my finance data into my SAP cube so I can use this as a basis for other data that I would want to derive from. So in this case, you see a relatively simple event here. You're copying the data, you're mapping it. So if I click on copy, you see down here I have the attributes of my copy job. And if I click on source, you see that I'm actually selecting this fact table from my demo database within my SAP cube. And so I can actually specifically pick not just the cube, but also specific tables within that cube. And then I'm taking that data from my SAP system and I'm syncing it, I'm pushing it to Azure Data Lake. Now I can choose different deposit locations. In this case, I've chosen destination data set. You notice here the icon is for Azure Data Lake, but I could choose any manner of different places to deposit the data. And then before I deposit the data, I want to transform the data. I actually want to be able to manipulate the data in flight. And I want to do so in this case, or I'm able to do so in this case with a code-less experience. So I click on settings and then click on open. So I can see here now that I have a pipeline of data that's being brought in. Let me zoom out a little further here. And just like in the previous example where there's sources and sinks, in this case I have a source from my SAP HANA database, and I'm creating this two separate sinks, one that's actually running this specific set of derived columns, and then this other sink which I'm actually doing total sales by year. And so if I drill into this one, for example, I can see here this is a relatively simple mapping where I'm choosing product keys ordered by year and by month and then by date. So I'm essentially manipulating and subsetting the data as it's being brought in flight from my SAP HANA instance. Now this is an example of a codeless example where I can very easily bring in data. I don't have to write any code. I just do a simple set of mappings. But if you recall from that previous slide, in many cases you have to prep data. There's a lot of data that you have to write code in some cases to actually be able to make use of that data. And so if I go back over here to my orchestrate piece and I click on my marketing database migration, in this case I'm bringing in some relatively complex data from my Teradata database. It's my marketing campaign information. And historically, I would have had to use something like Databricks. But in this case, we've actually integrated in the ability of running Python and Spark and such directly into Azure Synapse. So you notice this step here of prep data in Azure Synapse. If I click on that and then click on settings, and I open this, you can see here, this is my actual Python notebook that with the code that I've actually written to, in this case, ingest and transform the data in flight from my marketing database. So again, this is a code-first experience directly integrated into this Synapse workspace without having to go separately manage a set of, say, Databricks instances and have a separate set of security and manageability and update processes. This is all integrated into the main system. Now, I mentioned before that I'm bringing in, what I've shown here is bringing in a couple different, I'll say, legacy data sets. What I also want to do is enrich that data after it's been brought in to have the Twitter data, the Twitter trending data, which I showed in there before. So I go back over here to orchestrate, and I click on Twitter data migration. So you see here is a separate job I've written that copies data from this tweet database. It copies, transforms it as necessary, and then cleans up, has a cleanup process. So it always, because obviously the Twitter data is quite large, you have to be able to trim the data. And so in order to actually make use of this, let me go into the data piece here, and then let me go into Twitter data. And so what's actually happening behind the scenes is I'm ingesting the raw Twitter data as Parquet files, depositing them into Azure Data Lake, and then my job is actually then running over those Parquet files to actually extract the Twitter data and be able to produce it up for the Power BI charts and graphs. So as an example here, if I select the first two Parquet files and I say new SQL script, I'm going to select the top 100 rows from that. It very nicely creates a pre-made query here, and I can run that query. And this is running live over those Parquet files. It actually now has parsed and processed those that Twitter feed, and I can click on chart here, and I can see, this is my favorite count, retweet count. I've just chosen, a very small subset just for demo purposes, but this is an example where you can directly, again, within Synapse, without having to go out to separate environment, a separate editor, I can actually directly bring in the data, ingest the data, run jobs. In this case, I'm doing a SQL job over those resulting Parquet files, and being able to immediately develop the data and immediately develop the queries, which are going to be feeding into the resulting transform data to be shown in my charts and graphs within Power BI. And then finally, I wanted to show, again, I can directly within the service, I can be able to, let's go down here. I want to show some of the things I can do in Power BI. Let me close some of these up. So notice there's Power BI chart or option right here in Synapse. And so I click on this demo surface, and it's going to launch an instance of Power BI directly in Azure Synapse. And so this is the same data set that I was showing before, but I can directly do development of my Power BI charts and graphs from within, again, Synapse. And I can do this in real time. I can, for example, there's an interactive query mechanism where I can run a query such as select profit by country, by product category, and show it as a tree map. And so this actually runs live over my data set, shows a simple tree map. If I want to see it as a table, I repivot it and it shows up as a table. If I want to see it as a map, then we'll show it that way. There's a number of different charting options, obviously. But again, this is a live query that I can very simply type in a couple different examples, see how the data looks, and be able to very quickly drag it into my system. Now, again, because this is sitting on top of Azure Data Lake, and Azure Data Lake has unlimited storage, I can have vast amounts of data within this lake, and I can query it in a very fast fashion. So let me go over here and click on this. So this is a database that has a data lake that has 30 billion rows. This is my campaign data. So this is touch points that my customers have had across the different campaigns, marketing campaigns that I've run. And I'm actually querying this live in real time, so across these 30 billion rows. So for example, I can click on Be Unique, and I can see that of the 30 billion, 10 billion touch points were made for that specific campaign. I could choose a different campaign, have it requery, there's 9 billion there. Or I can also go in and drill in here and see of this small subset, Enjoy the Moment, from this specific subset of a campaign, there were 300 million rows within that. So again, I'm doing this all in real time across billions and billions of rows, being able to bring this in and have, again, a very integrated experience. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to the previous presenters, and we'll go to, I believe, Ricardo.
Thank you, George. All right, so very good what George showed us, and I think that it's a great example of how this idea of being able to do, processing and insights all the way from the edge, and then bring that all the way to the cloud. So very good. What I like to move next is to start talking a little bit about what happens either at a regional level or in the store, right? And how we can use technology to implement those retail solutions that are basically capturing insights real time and optimizing what happens inside the store, and then give us the ability to pool and aggregate the different viewpoints of the edge and of the stores, can capture that and aggregate in a regional location, and then pass all those insights up to the public cloud, and that's where it could be reused by Synapse, for example, tying to George's demo. So let's take a look at technology a little bit. And technology-wise, this is the Intelligent Cloud taxonomy diagram that basically describes where, or how you can use the Azure powers across all the spectrum, from the global scale of Azure, which is being pictured on the right-hand side of the slide, all the way to sensors and small devices that are in the field. So the idea is that Azure services can be made available and can access to those not only devices on the field, but also can run on premises with something like Azure Stack, Hub, Edge, HCI. And also there is a common way for you to write your applications and communicate across these different sensors all the way to the edge. And with that allows you to do is you use the global scale of Azure, and then you can run your workloads on premises with something like Azure Stack Hub, which is basically it's an appliance you roll into your data center, and then you have the Azure portal, you have ARM, you have a select and curate number of Azure services, and all the way going to the edge with something like Azure Stack Edge, where you can push your AI workloads there, and also do data tiering. And then as you get closer to the left side of this diagram, and we start talking about different sensors and edge devices that aggregate sensors and control. This is things like from HVAC sensors to door actuators and things like that. But the most important thing is that there is a platform where you can orchestrate all those components. Now, when we look at this capability, is really, I would say, in three main pillars to drive your applications anywhere. You have the choice to use the global power of Azure. Azure is indeed the world's computer. And then if you have to run Azure-like workloads under the control of your data center, that's where Azure Stack comes into place. And with Azure Arc, you can orchestrate workloads across different Azure stacks, different data centers, any cloud, and then you can target the IoT workloads with our IoT portfolio. And this is all with a common way for you, a common and consistent way of development. Now, when we talk specifically about Azure Stack is a family. So we have Azure Stack Edge, which is a first-party cloud managed appliance, and the idea of Azure Stack Edge is to be able to run AI at the edge, as well as small IoT-related compute, as well as data transfers and data tiering. And then on the right side, there is Azure Stack Hub, which is basically your appliance that brings the key Azure capabilities and the concepts of Azure, like ARM, Azure Resource Manager, consistent tooling, etc., which allows you to develop your application the same way you develop to the public cloud, running on the control of your data center. And then there is Azure Stack HCI for those of you that want to build your own hyper-converged solutions. So let's drill down in a couple, in two members of this family, which is Azure Stack Hub and Azure Stack Edge. So what is Azure Stack Hub? So Azure Stack Hub is the Azure solution for you that need a autonomous cloud. And this autonomous cloud, it can be because you have a limited connectivity, or you face certain type of regulatory or data sovereignty needs that requires you to keep all your or most of your compute and data on premises. It's also for you that wants to modernize existing systems of record with the power of Azure services. So you can have an Azure Stack Hub sitting alongside your existing systems of record for basically application modernization. The beauty of Azure Stack Hub is that it provides a completely consistent development operations model like you have in Azure. You use the same tooling, the same SDKs, and you are able to establish your CI/CD, your DevOps procedures in a way that takes in consideration your resources in the public cloud or Azure Stack Hub. You can indeed have a integrated CI/CD pipeline because all the tooling, all the SDKs are the same and are consistent with the public cloud. Then, in addition to that, we have a select and curate a number of Azure services on premises, meaning that you can harness the power of those Azure services in your applications on premises. And finally, it's a purpose-built integrated system. It is an appliance that you roll into your data center, and that appliance basically comes pre-configured. You wire power and network, and the way you interact with that appliance is through the Azure portal and also the Azure APIs that are running in the appliance. So the appliance has the Azure endpoints on itself, and that's how you use the same tooling and the same consistency to operate that. Great. So let's drill down in these three pillars. In terms of consistent application development, again, on Azure Stack Hub has its ARM instance with its ARM endpoint, which means that your tooling can connect to that ARM endpoint running on Azure Stack Hub. And then your scripts on Azure CLI, PowerShell, etc., will just target that Azure Stack Hub endpoints as it targets the public cloud. And with that said, you have the ability to reuse your knowledge and code, etc., to run on premises. The same portal experience. So in Azure Stack Hub, you have the Azure portal running in the appliance, and same look and feel. And basically, you operate in pretty much the same way as you would be doing in the public cloud. And the idea here again is you have a consistent way to develop and operate your applications. Now, there is also the availability of Azure services on premises with serverless functions, app service, websites, containers, Kubernetes, a very rich marketplace, meaning that you can leverage different VM templates and etc. And also pre-built solutions from many partners in the marketplace. And then all the IaaS capabilities with virtual machines, networking, storage, key vault. And lastly, it's all about a purpose-built system. Again, it's a system that the architecture is designed between, with Microsoft and its OEMs. It's completely configured. It comes pre-configured. It is validated. Comes with monitoring and diagnostic capabilities, and also allows you to operate in a very streamlined way. So with that said, what this means is it basically allows you to roll that appliance on premises and have a very streamlined operation. So I like to go and just remind you some of the recent announcements that we made available last Ignite of some of the additional capabilities on Azure Stack Hub. So we have the public preview of cognitive services on containers. And what that allows you to do is basically to run pre-built AI in form of containers on premises. And you have things like, face, text, speech, and the other cognitive services capabilities in containers. Also, the ability to create Kubernetes clusters with AKS engine. Several hybrid patterns and end-to-end solutions that are available on GitHub for you to reuse. And actually, this webinar showcases one of those solutions, the intelligent retail solution. We are working with the enablement of GPU, so there is a private preview program, and capabilities around fleet management, event hubs. That's another public preview that we announced, WVD, and a few other services. So really what you see here is more and more we continue bringing the Azure innovation to Azure Stack Hub, really making Azure Stack Hub to have the services that you need to create those modern cloud-born applications. So just a quick highlight of Azure Stack Hub and GPU support. There is a private preview available, and you can go and sign up for the preview. We are starting the program and looking for customers. So it's AKMS, Azure Stack Hub, GPU preview to sign up. Great. So we cover so Azure Stack Hub that basically bring Azure Stack Azure services on premises, and allows you to, from I would say a regional level, bring your compute and Azure needs to your data center. Now, when we go and talk about the actual applications running on the edge, we have a solution for that, which is Azure Stack Edge. Azure Stack Edge, the first-party device that basically allows you to perform machine learning at the edge, to run also IoT and edge compute components, and provide you the ability to perform data transfer from edge to the cloud, meaning that with Azure Stack Edge, your solution can read and write to the device steers the data and uses Azure to steer the data to the public cloud. And you can do some interesting things like, you can filter your data, you can anonymize your data, and all those things go very well with scenarios of machine learning in the edge. It's fully managed in the cloud, so basically you bring the device to your edge location, you provide power and network connectivity, and then you manage the device through the Azure portal, and you push your AI models and IoT components through the Azure portal, and the device will receive that configuration and do all the processing locally in the device. The ability to run containers at the edge is very, very important to highlight as well. You can run cognitive services, you can run containers that have AI models, and other services containerized like string analytics, functions, even the SQL databases, and even grid. So that's very powerful, because what it means is in Azure Stack Edge, again, you can do your AI processing tasks, but also use solutions that are available in containers, which provides a lot of flexibility for you to run solutions in that device. So, how does it manage? How do you go about to get the device itself? All the fulfillment and ordering is through the Azure portal. So you go to the Azure portal like you add any other resource. You go and add a Azure Stack Edge device from the marketplace, and then the device is shipped to your location, and you pay a monthly fee. All the management happens from the cloud, and I will go through the management capabilities and the managed blades from the portal. But basically, you go from the Azure portal, you decide what type of workloads you want to push to the device, and then the device will fetch that configuration, bring your containers, which could be generic containers or AI-enabled containers. And those containers are downloaded to the device. Your code will run in the device. Which is very, very important to highlight is it's a management experience that is based on the cloud, but all the processing happens in the device itself. So the other important thing to highlight is that there are different series of the Azure Stack Edge. So today we have the commercial series available with FPGA. We have a preview of the commercial series appliance with GPU, and also we have coming a preview of the ruggedized series. And why this is important is because this just shows, this just gives you opportunity to run the devices where it's best suited for the job that you want to make, right? So if you are running your edge needs on the back of a store where you have a rack or some infrastructure for IT, you can use the commercial series. if you are running this on even a smaller location, maybe a pop-up store or a small convenience store, or even if you are running this where you have less infrastructure, the rugged series is an opportunity to use that. So again, this just shows us providing the different options and form factors that are best suited for each job. And I think what is important to highlight is that everything we talk so far, it is most of it is available today. So we have different use cases today using that technology, and one of the cases, to highlight is Kroger that is using Azure Stack Edge, data retail stores with live video analytics, and the idea is to basically provide, a personalized experience for shoppers with recommendations at the shelf. And this is all basically improves the experience for both shoppers and staff. And again, this just highlights that a lot of what we talk today, it is true and you can have access today. And talking about bringing this to reality, I'd like to move forward a little bit and showcase to you the Intelligent Retail Blueprint. So a few months ago, the Azure Stack team and the Intel team got together and we start thinking, how can we showcase what is next in retail? So then we came with the concept of what we call the intelligent retail. And that's what I like to walk you through today. So to start off, let's just think on, what happens on a physical store. And by the way, I'm going to connect this also with the new normal that we are seeing because of COVID-19. So, when we look at the store floor, you walk into the store and cameras are commonplace today. Vision is the new multi-purpose sensor, right? With vision, you can do many things. So one of the things in stores is about footfall, is understanding how people are interacting with stores, with physical stores. And what we can do, we can leverage these existing sensors, the cameras, to basically understand how people come and interact to our spaces. Now, how this is related with the new normal? Oh, well, with all the limitations in public gatherings and also in social distancing, etc., same technology can be used to ensure that people are safe in a physical store. Now, as a customer walks into a specific area and grabs a certain type of apparel, we can leverage augmented reality to show how that given apparel looks. Or in the new normal, we can use augmented reality with things like a greeting kiosk, right? A kiosk that basically helps the customer to find what he needs, or can help the customer to get his online orders with a minimum touch experience as possible, because we want to make sure that we keep people safe. So again, same technology that can be used for both just optimizing overall store show floor traffic, or just minimize and make more effective the time that people go in and out of stores, and with all the limitations in public gatherings and etc. So the other very important thing is, as customers get certain types of products, we can also perform a checkout anywhere in the store. This minimize lines and etc. And again, very, very important on a scenario like we see today with COVID-19. And all of that using the same app. So what I'm going to walk you through is through an integrated store app that basically handles all aspects of the customer experience. So, let's take a look at how that works. And I think that the best way to showcase this is to just walk you through this solution. So let me pause the slides for a moment here. And we are going to switch screens. And I like to start with the Intelligent Retail app. And again, it's important to highlight that what I'm going to show you, it is available today in GitHub, and you can implement using our blueprint as a starting point. So the first thing I like to show you is, this is the FAQ section. We will come back to it in a bit. But I like to, and I'm going to reposition my camera, and you'll notice why in a bit. So you lose my my face for a moment here. So let me switch to the kiosk mode. And really, the kiosk mode, the idea of the kiosk mode is to provide a greeting, right? And I will turn off my camera because the camera is being used by Teams. And this way the app could not access it. So let's restart this again. All right, so let's take a look at the kiosk. Okay, so a couple of things. And what you notice, let me do this again. I apologize, guys. I will change the camera location here. All right, greeting kiosk. So right now you are looking at the ceiling, not a great view, but what I like to show you, this is bringing an existing the kiosk concept up to a notch and really minimize things like the need to touch or interact with the kiosk. So what we have here is you see that as soon as I get into the field of view of the kiosk, the actual UI will change. I don't have to touch anything. So here's what I will do that right now. I walk into the field of view of the kiosk. And notice how the kiosk detects my face, and we have the bounding box just to exemplify that. And then automatically the experience has changed, right? And then I can either touch or use my voice to select a given product. And then the kiosk will direct me to a location on the store. Now, again, going back to the new normal, how this applies, this is indeed one way to basically optimize an intelligent kiosk using things like cognitive services to detect face, etc., to minimize the need for customers to actually touch and interact. That was great, and I just restart the kiosk again because we are going to look at some other aspects. So we just saw how we greet customers coming in and out, and how that experience can be augmented by things like cognitive services. Now, another thing that you can see here is FAQs. How to make sure that your customers' questions are addressed. So the same app, different view, and you notice that in this view, what I have is an FAQ section that basically shows the different questions and answers for a given product. And this is as I walk with a tablet, as the staff, I walk with a tablet in the store. the application knows where I am in the store and can change the FAQs based on where I'm close, which type of product I'm close by. Now, talking about an integrated experience, if I go and go over the checkout process, again, the same map can be used by the staff to perform many activities. Right now, we are looking at the checkout process. And at this moment, I can basically provide the customer the choice to sign up for our loyalty program, meaning that the next time the customer comes in, the kiosk knows who the customer is and can provide a recommendation, etc. Thinking on a post-COVID world, again, if I opt in to be recognized as I walk into the store, my groceries are already ready for me to pick up. So let me sign up for the loyalty program. I'll go and take a picture. And of course, let me turn off the camera so the app can actually use the camera here. So I take a picture. Great. Hit register. And now I can go ahead and proceed with checkout. Great, I just check out. And now next time that I'm back, the kiosk will recognize me. All right, insights. Now I like to show you what type of insights we can get out of this. So let me switch screens here. And you are seeing the retail insights from both the front of the house and the back of the house. And a couple of things to notice on the top left corner of the screen, we have a real-time view of what has been sold. And then we also have customer registrations data, which is on the middle of the screen on the left side. And finally, customer arrivals, which is basically real-time footfall data. Please notice that this particular data for this demo is being simulated because I don't have many people coming in and out of this room here that I am. So the customer arrivals right now, as you see, is simulated data, but on a production setting would have the real-time view of people coming in and out of the store based on cameras. And then on the top right corner, we have the inventory summary. Now, what I like to show you is what's happening on the right side here. You know, it's COVID times, right? We are all working from home, and we do have a lab with all this set up on a setting that simulates a store, but I could not go there. So then I thought, all right, how can I show you how we track inventory real time with what I have on mind? So then I realized that Bruno has this collection. Bruno is my son, by the way. He has this beautiful collection of Legos, and that's what you are seeing. You can tell by the timestamp. This is real time coming from his room next door. So I need some help here. So I will ask for Bruno to come here. Bruno, can you come here and help me? Please. All right, Bruno, here's what I need you to do. Can you go and grab the blue Lego? All right, so I just asked Bruno to walk over his room, and what's going to happen is he's going to take a product out of the shelf, and then what we will see is, as soon as that happens, now we see that he's on the field of view, and here's the void detection solution, actually, it does detect a void. You can tell by the bounding box. So this is all real time, right? And the beauty of this is that it works basically on any shelf, right? It just works. It just basically based on something that looks like a shelf. If you take products out and you create a void, that basically shows that real time. Again, this is live, and the beauty of everything is that this is available today. So you can get this solution and deploy on your own. We have all the source code, all the models, etc. Now, this thing works in Bruno's room with this particular playset, with this particular product. It can work with any product. We have other demos available from other events where we did with serial boxes and everything. It doesn't matter. It will just look for the voids and it will flag that. So when that happens, it's great because you can now signal the back of the house, and the back of the house can go and replenish stock. All right, so this is how the entire solution works. Now let me walk you through what is on the behind the scenes, right? So let's switch screens here. So first of all, right now we are on the Azure Stack portal, and you are just looking at the resources that are used in this particular solution to aggregate insights from across retail locations, right? The idea is we can run this on many stores at the same time, and then we use the aggregation of the insights from the stores come to Azure Stack Hub. And the reason we are running this directly out of the stores is that we want all the AI and all the video data being processed and kept at the stores, and just the insights being brought to a regional location. And on that regional location, we have Azure Stack Hub. So let's take a look at what is actually running in the cloud and also in the edge. So this is the Azure portal, and again, same look and feel. Azure Stack Hub and Azure Stack and Azure, same portal, same look and feel, right? That's the consistency. What you are looking are resources in the public cloud that basically aggregate all the data from those regional locations, and as a result, all the data from the different stores. So the idea again is to have multiple levels of inferencing and data aggregation, and being able to surface those insights to many levels, regional level and the public cloud. Also, on the right side of the screen, you see the different Azure Stack Edge devices that I have. And again, those devices are managed and operate directly from the cloud. And let me show you what does it look to operate those edge devices. So here I have one of those devices being shown. And basically on the left side of the main screen, we have things like, your data shares, because remember, this is also a data tiering device. And then you have the concept of modules. And with modules, that's where all that compute and inferencing power comes from. So from here, I choose which modules I want to deploy to the device, and it can be one or it can be many. Those modules can do things like general compute, because they are containers, all the way to full AI inferencing modules. So I perform this configuration. I define which modules I want to be sent to which device, and the device may be sitting in a store here in Bellevue, or it can be sitting in a convenience store on a small gas station in the middle of, in set state, anywhere in the world. But you still have this decentralized view to operate your devices. So that's how the solution was built. That's a quick overview to bring all the pieces together. And I'm very proud to say that this entire solution is available today on GitHub. So you can go and you can clone this repo. We have all the source code. We have an entire step-by-step a set of instructions that also describes which different pieces and which different technologies were used to create this solution. So everything is available today. Everything is open source. And basically with a regular RTSP camera, you can get started. And if you don't have a Azure Stack Edge today, you can order one through the Azure portal. And again, when we put this together, our idea was to make sure that you can get started pretty quickly. And most importantly, we want to show that everything we talked so far, it is actually true. You can do it today. And finally, all the technology we show, we believe can also position you better in front of the COVID-19 challenges. Reason being is the same way that we provide a intelligent kiosk that allows touchless interaction with customers, that same technology can be used to basically have know when you arrive into a store for curbside pickup. The same footfall technologies that count how many people are in a store can be used to ensure that people are safe. The same footfall technology can do things like check if you, with different models of course, can check if you have masks and other protection as you go into public places. The technology that allows the void detection can optimize for the different deliveries to be ready for the different deliveries packages to be ready for pickup. Again, this is all true. This is all happening today. This is all open source. And with that said, I like to thank you, everyone, and it was a pleasure to have you here today. I highly recommend you to go and check out our GitHub repo, and also the same URL that you use to log on to this webinar, the aka MS/Intelligent Retail. That URL will also direct you to GitHub. So with that said, it was a fun morning, a good way to start the day, and I do hope that every single of you, have a great rest of the day. I really appreciate, on behalf of Intel and the Azure Stack and the broader Microsoft team, we appreciate your time, and we plan to have other similar webinars in the future. So stay tuned. And again, thank you so much for your presence, and you guys have a awesome day. Thank you so much.
Great. As real quick follow-up, we'll also be sending out some of the materials via email so that you guys have access to some of the replay content and the replay webinar. In addition, we want to give a quick call out to our friends over at Neil Analytics, who've done a ton of work to help us get organized and get the demos ready and working from home. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the home demos as much as I did today, and have a great rest of your day.